Hello. Sorry I've been away for a little bit, but I'm getting better. And with any luck, by the time we actually get to see each other in person, I'll be totally back on track. This week, we are going to be exploring pages 14 through 17. And that's why teaching how to practice is the real what we are learning. By the time we get to this stage, students actually need help with practice. The pretty shiny stage is over. They really are not enthralled because it's starting to get a little more difficult now. So we have to help them by really helping them learn how to practice. And again, as I said, teaching how to practice is what we really do. That is our job. It's to teach them how to practice. The will, of course, is constant. You're always working on your posture, your breath, your embouchure, and your tonguing. The learning goals. The students, as I said, will explore what practicing is and how it needs to be presented to young learners. Very, very important, because we assume so much. We say, go practice. They don't know how to do that. So we have to be very specific. And we need to realize that it must encompass mental, physical, oral, and visual in that order for it to really be successful. There are 3 stages of practice that we will deal with. Right now, we will only deal with 2. And as an overview, the first stage is learning practice, and that is slow. And it's got to be slow for the brain to actually assimilate it. And most experts are saying if you go any faster than a crotchet equals 60, the brain will not take it in. Because what happens after that, when it gets faster than that, the brain is actually going into automatic mode. So in order for the brain to really learn, it must do it slowly. And when do we move from slow practice to then what I call the next stage, mastery practice, is when they actually have a grasp of the concept, when they're not struggling horribly to get the idea, whether it's the new note, the new rhythm, whatever the concept is. Don't make them wait until it's perfect, because that's too long. It's just got to be worked enough that they understand what they're doing. The next step then is the repetitions that they need for what's called mastery practice. And mastery practice is taking what you know and then making it second nature. And that takes upwards of 400 plus times or repetitions. And that can seem incredibly daunting to especially young students, but they don't understand that repetition is a huge part of practice. Now, let's explore slow practice. We are already teaching them slow practice from the way that we have taught them since the beginning. If they would say the names of the notes out loud and say them until they actually recognize them, that is part of slow practice. If they would then say the rhythm out loud, then if they would say either the note names or the rhythm names and move the fingers on the instrument. I'll be using the clarinet as a demonstration. On page 14, let's just look at number 39. What I would do is I'd be saying my rhythm, moving my fingers. Ta, 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 rest, rest. Ta, 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 rest, rest. And when they know that they can do that successfully, they then go on to playing it. Now, when we're talking about those ideas, Once they can do that, they can pick up whether their weakness is note recognition or coordination. There might be somewhere going, say, not so much in this piece, but say they're having trouble moving from F to C. They then have to make those fingers work. Okay? They have to make that happen. So it lets them self-identify and self-diagnose what the problem is so they can work on it effectively. Now, once that has been established, and they can actually do those things, then mastery practice can continue. And mastery practice is doing something 5 times in a row. And I use this in my own teaching. We call it 5 by 5. So 5 days a week, and each exercise plays 5 times. So that by the time the exercise has been played 25 times over the course of a week, it's got to get better. It just has to. And generally, you can, once you start quizzing them if things are not going well, you can basically get them to admit that they're not practicing. And then it's on them to actually come to the party and do what they're supposed to do. Because at no point, as I've timed it with them, at no point do the 3 or 4 exercises we expect make them have to practice more than 15 actual playing minutes. I don't believe in assigning practice time. I don't say do it for 30 minutes. I do assign a number of repetitions, and 5 seems to be the best number. The brain tends to get a little tired after that, and they start making mistakes. So 5 by 5. And then if you do your math and go back to my earlier 400 concept, that for it to be mastery, that basically can take place within about 4 months. So they are about there anyway at this stage with their first 5 to 6 notes, that they've had that much time. All right, now we've talked about how to go into mastery practice and what mastery practice is. At this stage, we'll leave it at just the 5 times because they really aren't advanced enough to need to self-diagnose any bigger problems. Because right now, if they can say their note names, say their rhythm, move their fingers, and have practiced that sufficient amount of times, that should guarantee progression going very, very well. Now, let's talk about how to set up a practice for just them on a daily basis. This is taking us back to what I was saying about the warm-up pieces. Between page 6 through page 17, I require a series of warm-up pieces. And what that does is it provides the reinforcement and review that every student needs. Every student in any class that they're in, any learning they do, needs to start with review and reinforcement of previous concepts before you start with the new stuff. So by having them set up a pattern, which is what I do in every lesson, we start with them first off saying their alphabet. And in this case, we're talking about the clarinet, and we'll deal more with that alphabet in a little bit when I'm actually going through the pages more. But they say their alphabet, then they go to page 6, and they play straight through number 14. They don't do it 5 times, they've already played it. So they just review. First 5 notes, first rhythm concepts. Page 7, number 25, page 8, number 31, page 9, number 34, page 10, number 45, page 11, number 49. And that brings us then to the new work, page 14 up. And then with each successive page, we add another warm-up. But you've got to get them in the habit, and it's not always easy to get that habit established, but get them in the habit of going through these steps, because if they do, they will set themselves up and remember all of their previous learning so that they're then capable of doing the next step that you need them to approach. Now, let's talk about the portfolio and everything. What I would like to have for your portfolio is for you to look at different practice methods. Now, I've given you the 5x5. I've given you the say the note names, say the rhythm names, say the names of the notes and move the fingers, or say the rhythm and move the fingers. All of those are legitimate ways of practicing. But if you can have several different ways of teaching practice to young kids, and remember the goal of practice is for them to have a review, a reinforcement, and repetition. If we got review, reinforcement, and repetition, then they are going to progress. Without those things, there's a missing piece, and it will cause them to stumble, and we don't want them to stumble. So for your portfolio, 3 or 4 different methods. It doesn't have to be complex. Remember, these are just for your tools so that you have a child that the method's not working for, you have something else for them to try. Because it's our job to try to give them different ways of practicing. And also not to make it really, really laborious. We don't want it to be laborious for the kids. And that basically is what we've been talking about. Now, we'll talk about the other big concept that we're going to hit when we hit page 16, which is the introduction of the concert A flat. And the problem is, with all children, is them looking at the exact same note on the same line or same space, and then having to realize it has a different name and a different fingering. That really seems to mess with their brains. And I've explained myself a little bit in the lesson plan that I've sent you, but I'll take us through each of the pages 14, 15, 16, 17 and explain what's going to happen. Now, these are fewer pages in this segment, all right, fewer pages in this segment, but these will take longer. These are harder concepts that are going to take longer for the kids to assimilate. So let's start with page 14. The big thing with page 14 is the tied note. Now, what they don't get is its addition. If you can get them to understand that that tie is a plus sign, I've had so much success with it, so much success. And I find that you really need to get them to say the rhythm out loud. Because if they don't, especially pulsing it, they will cheat and they will start trying to repeat the second note of a tie. Whereas if you can get it to be a plus sign and that you're going, I'm adding them both together, they tend to move then to the next rhythm much easier. But again, that's just my experience with that. So again, if we look at 59, you would be having them go ta, ah, ta, ah, ta, ah, ta, ah. Now, most children will be going, why are they doing that? And you have to explain to them that it's about them learning the idea, not about the way it's actually used. If you jump down to number 64, it's the first time when we play this exercise, and trust me, number 64 is not a beautiful exercise. It's the first time that the reason for a tie actually exists because they have to play a note longer than the bar. And if you can point that out to them, even though you may not be playing that yet, it calms them down and makes them go, okay, I understand what's happening. So that's the tie for you. Now let's talk about the dotted minim. Yay! Problem with the dotted minim is they're all splotches. It's a circle with a stem with a dot. At no point visually does it look long, and we've got to get them to understand that it's long. So you spend a lot of time with the tied note, ta, ah, ah, and you use your breath. Okay? Let it bounce. So get them to use air pulses, okay? Then especially in 61, so that they understand that that dot gets another beat of air. That is incredibly important. Now, this is why the clarinet has been chosen for this particular set of pages. It's filled with issues. We are now going to a low G. If they do not cover the holes, my fingers look like they're covering the holes, but I'm not actually pressing down. And because of that, I'm getting no sound to come out. So if no sound comes out while they're blowing, your bottom hand, your right hand is leaking. Now, if your top hand's leaking, squeak. And I'm not going to hit you with that really hideous squeak, but if your thumb leaks, it's just ear piercing. So, normal squeak, top hand or left hand is leaking. It's not covering the holes. No sound even though you're blowing. And you've got to get them used to this. This is a real big stretch for them, so you take your time. The other thing you have is number 65. You will spend lots and lots of time working on the second full bar because they want to play an extra note for the second tied note, or the second note of the tie. And so getting them to truly understand that the tied note's 2 beats and then they move on to the next note. That is one of the reasons it's written this way, to determine if they're actually understanding that concept. So that's page 14, and that is all about the tie and the dotted minim. The tie has got to be a plus sign. Now, 3/4 time, no big deal. Okay? What you do is you what you do is you get the students to understand that there is a steady or a louder pulse on every 3 beats, because what they will do is they will add a gap. I will use number 69 as the example. So they might go ta, 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 and put an extra beat in each bar. So you've got to get them to go ta, 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 t, 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 okay? And really, this is what you're trying to achieve here. You're really trying to achieve the fact that they can put a heavy pulse every 3 beats. And we spend a lot of time, literally, if you look at number 66, I go ta, 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 rest, ta, ta, t, 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 ta, rest, rest, ta, t, t, ta, ta, t, t, ta, t, t, ta, 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 ah. And really overemphasizing the heavy pulse on beat 1. You do that several times and suddenly the penny starts to drop. Then in number 68, what you work on is minims get 2 beats. Minims get 2 beats. Excuse me just a second. And then, of course, at the end of that line, the dotted minim is tied to a crotchet, which gives us a 4-beat note in a 3/4 timing. But getting minim air. Sorry, bad eyes. Rest. If you get them to equate a length of air with the rhythm, you're going to be so much more successful. Now, morning is something pretty, and we use that as a warm-up piece. Oh, let me go back just a second. Number 65 on page 14 is the warm-up piece for that page. Number 69 is the payoff for living through number 65, because they actually get a tune. They get something pretty, you know? I won't play the whole thing. Now, here I have a big objection. we barely have most of them tonguing, and then they want you to talk about accent. I think it's not the best time to teach accent at this point, because a lot of times kids will just do it wrong. And so what I talk about, I'll say how it's an emphasis, and in more advanced music, when the kids actually have more skills, then you can truly talk about an accent. But I find it's really a waste of time at this point when they barely can control their mouth, barely can control their hair, and really have not that much control over their tongue. So until those three things are a little more solid, playing an accent is not beneficial. So don't waste your time. You can play the little songs like the Mexican clapping song, and especially for flute players, it's totally useless trying to teach accent. They barely can play loud enough to make a difference anyway. So it doesn't work very well. What I do is just talk about how we can make a difference. And what I do is I make a difference in length. I don't make a difference in volume, because they can't control volume. So the first little bit of Mexican clapping song. My A was lovely. Short. It's an emphasis. Suddenly makes it stick out, so that they get the idea that the accent has attention drawn to it. The note suddenly has more attention musically, and that's much safer, much safer. Now we'll continue on to the real bugaboo, page 16. The introduction of concert A flat. Okay? This is going to take some time and be a nag about it. Now I'm going to do this a la clarinet. So the clarinet at this stage is playing before we really introduce even the high B flat. I'm only doing this on number 73. Alright? They're playing this note set, or alphabet. So G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. That's what they have up to this point. They should be able to say that and move that without any problems. Now we're going to add B flat. Now watch my fingers. G, A, B flat, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Almost on every instrument, the higher note, the finger moves down, not up. This causes so much confusion. This is a lower note than this, and it really wrecks the kids. So what I do is I start talking about G, A, B flat, B, C. And that's as far as I go. C, B, B flat, A, G. We just keep saying that over and over again in whatever instrument we're talking about. Now, in doing that, that allows the kids to really get their idea around this mess, which is not easy. It doesn't make sense that you go down to go up. And the fact that they are looking at the same note, same position, and it's got two different names and two different fingerings. The other thing you'll find out is that your children a lot of times have not figured out that they're playing high and low. So we spend a lot of time determining, is B higher than B flat? So you're spending a lot of time with that, and asking questions about which is higher, and what is the order. And you're always wanting everything. If we're going up, what is the order? B flat to B. If we're coming down, it's B to B flat. And you just keep pumping and pumping and pumping that. And then eventually they go, oh, I can hear the difference. Some kids will tell you they can't hear the difference between the two notes. So you just keep at it until you raise their awareness that they finally go, okay, I get it. That is huge. Now, if you look at number 73, there is a lovely, lovely little thing that says either the flat or natural, depending on what you're doing. I'm reading off the clarinet page. The flat applies to all B's in the measure, or bar. We are talking Australia, we say bar. And that is one of the most important concepts you can teach a child, and it's there in teeny little print, and it looks like it doesn't mean anything. So it's your job to make that important. It has to be so, so, so important, because we all make mistakes and forget that the accidental is turned on for the whole body. And so we do that. Now, I avoid number 74 because it's supposed to be a precursor for number 76, but it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So 73 to teach them the B flat, then 75 to teach them the high B flat. Now again, clarinets have a particular problem because if you look at the back, we have here and here. And so when you say put your thumb on, they try to do both, and it just doesn't work. They just have to do this. Okay. Then in number 76, you have first and second time vowels. Now, this page could take 3 or 4 weeks to teach. It's huge. Conceptually, it's even bigger. So you've got to make sure you do that. Now, page 17 has this huge amount of notes on every instrument. Everybody is pretty much okay, except for the clarinets. Because now the clarinets have got to get low F, and they're reading 3 ledger lines below the staff. Incredibly, incredibly challenging. So we spend a lot of time with the clarinets just starting on maybe B flat and go, because as soon as you move your pinky, your ring finger moves. And if your finger comes off of this, no sound will come out. Okay? No sound will come out. So you've got to be very, very aware of those poor clarinet players having to do this. Now, here's your other problem. Is they are reading at the most extreme level of any instrument at this stage. So my clarinets have to actually be able to go F, F, G, A, G, F, G, A, F, C, F, F, G, A, G, F, G, A, at F. Excuse me, my tongue still doesn't want to work. Okay, and I've got to be able to do it quickly because it's hard to remember. So first thing, they've got to learn to do this. Then they got to be able to go. That is a huge, huge, huge thing for them. Now, clarinets are going to stall here. I'll be quite honest with you. And make sure they do stall, because if you look at the next pages, it's requiring them to play in this lower range a lot. So we've got to get that lower range right. Now, 78, very straightforward. 79, again, very straightforward. But what you've got to understand about 79, it's the first time they have to pay attention to the key signature, and only in part B. Then, big airstream, fine. That's mainly for people with higher notes. In 81, again, because of the 3/4 time, you've got to make sure they can tell and give you minim air and dotted minim air. Now here's a bit of a separation that happens. Okay? 83 is a warm-up only for clarinets. 84 is a warm-up for everybody else, because they have to do the entire range of their instrument. I'm not that concerned with the B flat for the clarinets at this stage, the high B flat, because for them, that's not the issue. For them, it's all the low notes. So 83 is their goal. 84 everybody else. I'll play through it, but it makes you test their dotted minimare, their minimare, their range, their ability to play quavers on beat 1 in 3 different places, and their recognition of other new notes. And again, dynamics are really not what you're looking for right now, because you're wanting a good, solid airstream. Dynamics are really an advanced thing at this point. Now, that should get you through all the ideas of 14, 15, 16, and 17. Now, I will be referring to these probably over the next couple of lessons, and I will be using the rest of our little break to get caught up in everything. And I apologize it's taken me so long, but I'm getting myself back on board, so that's good. I will try my hardest to answer any questions you've got over email, and just hang in there and keep doing little bits of practice, just like you'd expect the students to do. Thank you very much.